What's up, Sterile Processing Universe? It's Hank Balch here, back with Matthew Richardson, talking about real estate investing and in the sterile processing industry for sterile processing professionals in particular. We have talked about a lot of great concepts already. So if you're jumping in the middle of this series, you may want to go back to episode 1 and follow the conversation. They're real short episodes, about 10 minutes apiece. But on this episode, you may have skipped to this episode because you saw the title is talking about how do you make money in real estate investing. That's probably one of the most basic questions that folks have, even outside like how you do it. But it's like, where's the money coming out of this process? So Matthew, like, you can start anywhere you want, but where do you typically start when people ask you this question?
Yeah, the first thing that I always go to is you make money when you buy. If we don't, this goes back to what we talked about in episode 1 of reining in your emotions. Just because you want to invest and make a profit, the seller of the home, the future renter of the home doesn't have any thought towards that. They're not indifferent. They may want you to do well, but the only thing that's going to help you make money is in the purchase price. And so you make money when you buy generally. And then beyond that, you have your rental strategies and profit that you bring in through those various strategies, which I'm sure we'll get into.
So this is probably a dumb question, dumb follow-up question, but okay, so you make money when you buy, and that's an interesting concept. I would not have thought that was going to be your answer. Um, but how do you do that then? Because you're not the one setting the price. For the
Yeah,
most part, I guess you can set your offer. Um, but yeah, like, what are you looking at, and like, what's the strategy around that piece of the equation before we go into everything else you alluded to?
very well. Yeah, so there's different rules of thumbs. For simplicity's sake, let's talk about rentals in single family homes. There's rules of thumbs you can apply. I think the simplest one that most often works is called the 1 to 2% rule. And that's that your monthly rent needs to be 1 to 2% of your purchase price. With interest rates so high at the time of this recording, you're probably looking at 1.5 to 2%. And so what that looks like simply is if I'm looking at $100,000 home, then I know it needs to rent for $1,000 to $2,000 monthly to have the likelihood of turning a profit. And that begins the deal analysis because you'll see 137 properties on the market and maybe one or two will actually make you money. And so when you're applying that rules of thumb and you're looking through Zillow and you're looking through your MLS, you want to be making sure you're looking at the right purchase price to rent ratio. And so that's what I mean that you make money when you buy. And basically, you make money by purchasing a good assets set up for profit.
So I guess the inverse is true. If you make a bad buy, um, no matter what else you do on the back end, it's going to be very difficult to turn that into something that's going to generate any income, I guess.
Yep, you will not be able to turn a profit if you make a bad purchase, and then you will be a tired landlord, and you will tell everyone that real estate investing sucks, that you tried it, it doesn't work.
So uh, we talked a little bit about property valuation in the previous episode, and you just kind of alluded to, hey, there's some things at play. You need to look at the purchase price. You need to run these percentages on your rent. Talk to us about evaluating the rental market, because if you're looking at the numbers and you're saying, well, if I need 1.5% or 2%, and then I'm looking over here at the rental market, it's not lining up, or maybe I'm not looking at the rental market at all. Like, how do I go about investigating that piece of the puzzle to make sure that my numbers are lining up?
Very good. Yeah, so tap into the easiest data, use a service that does it for you. I use Rentometer, rentometer.com, and what they do is they pull all of the leases that have actually leased. That's the important part. You can list a property for $1 million, doesn't mean it'll rent for that. The market value of a property is what it actually leases for. and Rentometer pulls all of that data and just type in the property that you're looking for and start with the rent that you think it would be, and it'll tell you your rent's high, your rent's low, and you can pull an entire data set of like properties that tells you what they actually rented for. Get into the art of it. Check, one may have granite countertops, one may have cockroaches. Those are two different rent prices, but find the median range, and that's normally a good metric for you.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great tool. I know we are leaving our current lease here in about a month or so, and the landlord let us know that the new rental uh, the new rental amount is going to be like $300 higher than what he was charging us, and so uh, it was a good deal for us, because we've been here for a couple of years, and so we got to kind of lock the rental in through a longer term agreement. But I'm sure that uh, as that happens, like we may talk about this more in a future episode, I guess. But just because you start at a particular rate doesn't mean that you cannot raise that, from year to year, every 2 years. Kind of, can you talk us through that dynamic at all?
Yeah, absolutely. We do prefer 1 year leases for that reason, so that we can do market adjustments at the new of every lease, or make it a new. And so you make those market adjustments annually based on market rate increases. Sometimes we won't match it completely just because we don't want to mark it up on a family 15% over 1 year. But you do match the market in that regard, and that is the sweet spot of real estate, is that you're making money from day one because you purchased right, and then as time goes on, 5 years, 10 years later, your cash flow is increasing every year because your expenses are getting cheaper if you're keeping up with them, and your profits getting higher. So yeah, you follow the same process. You look at Rentometer, you pull the data, you see what things are written for in the new year.
Hmm. So, Matt, let's wrap up this episode with some common mistakes. We kind of alluded to, hey, you're making or losing money on the purchase. What are some other things maybe that beginners tend to make, and that you would kind of say, hey, this is how you avoid those?
Yeah, I think one primary mistake, and this is I would caveat, it's not a mistake for everyone because some people are skilled in this regard, but I think everyone tends to approach real estate based on how they saw their uncle do it, and that's DIY. And to me, when you try to DIY your maintenance and your repairs and stuff like that, you end up costing yourself a lot of headache, a lot more time, and then you end up paying for something to be fixed twice. So I would say, if you're not a trained professional in the upkeep of a property, don't think you have to engage in it to save you money, because it costs you more time, costs you more money than bringing a professional out to do it right the first time. And so I know that seems unrelated, but it's actually the one of the bigger mistakes that I see people make, is trying to DIY everything.
Okay. Well, I know we're going to talk about a lot more mistakes probably later on in this series, but for next episode, we're going to kick off that episode with talking about one of your early real estate investment experiences and some lessons that you learned in that kind of practical experience. So if you've been following along with us, that's going to be a great episode. We've been kind of talking high level. This is what you should and should not do, but let's learn what Matt did and what lessons he learned through that process. I want to thank you, though, for tuning in for this episode, and encourage you, like we do all the time here at Beyond Clean, keep fighting dirty.
It's your special day, 'cause you're getting that big raise. No errors in the surgical trays. Yeah, you keep everybody safe. You should get all the moolah, the smackers, the Benjamin's cabbage. So that's why I'm happy to say